Welcome to Bible Tales. We're excited to share timeless Bible stories with you, full of faith and wisdom. If you enjoy our content, please like, comment, and subscribe to support us and stay connected. Thank you for being here. Happy listening. The Widow of Zarephath, a story of faith, obedience, and divine providence. In the days when the land of Israel was parched under the curse of drought, brought on by the word of the prophet Elijah, God had a plan. The skies had been shut, and not a drop of rain had fallen for years. Rivers dried up, crops withered, and famine spread like an unrelenting shadow across the region. Elijah, God's prophet, had been dwelling by the brook Cherith, where ravens brought him bread and meat each day, and he drank from the brook. But soon, even the brook dried up. Then came the voice of the Lord, clear and unmistakable. Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to feed you, a desperate widow. Far from the prophet's current dwelling, in the small coastal town of Zarephath, lived a widow. She was not wealthy, not influential. Her life had been one of toil and struggle, compounded by the loss of her husband. Now, as famine gripped the land, her circumstances became dire. She and her young son were on the brink of starvation, with no hope in sight. One morning, as the widow gathered sticks near the town's gate, she thought of her dwindling provisions. All that remained was a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. It was enough for one last meal, a small loaf of bread to share with her son before they succumbed to hunger. An unexpected encounter. As she bent down to pick up a stick, she noticed a man approaching. His appearance was that of a traveler, worn from the road, yet there was something commanding about his presence. It was Elijah. The prophet called out to her, "Bring me a little water in a vessel, that I may drink." The widow paused. Though water was scarce, she turned to fetch some for the stranger. But before she could take more than a few steps, Elijah called again, "And bring me a morsel of bread in your hand." She froze. Bread? Did this man not see her plight? Turning to him, she said with trembling honesty, "As the Lord your God lives, I have nothing baked. I only have a handful of flour in a jar and a little oil in a jug. Now, I am gathering a couple of sticks so that I may go in and prepare it for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die." Her words were heavy with despair. But Elijah's response carried a promise that seemed almost impossible. "Do not fear," he said, his voice steady and filled with authority. "Go and do as you have said. But first, make me a little cake and bring it to me, and afterward, make something for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, the jar of flour shall not be spent, and the jug of oil shall not be empty until the day that the Lord sends rain upon the earth." Faith tested. The widow stared at Elijah, her heart torn between skepticism and a flicker of hope. Could this man be a prophet of the true God? His words carried weight, yet her resources were so small. To give away the last of what she had, even to a man of God, seemed like surrendering her son's life. Yet, something compelled her to obey. Perhaps it was the calm assurance in Elijah's voice or the desperate hope that his God might truly provide. Whatever it was, she turned toward her home, determined to fulfill his request. The miracle of provision. In her modest kitchen, the widow carefully measured the last handful of flour and the last drops of oil. Her hands trembled as she mixed the dough, shaped it into a small cake, and placed it over the fire. As the aroma of the bread filled the room, she lifted it and brought it to Elijah, her heart pounding. Elijah took the bread, blessed it, and ate. Then he gestured to the woman, "Now go, prepare for yourself and your son, with cautious hope, the widow returned to her kitchen. To her astonishment, the jar of flour was not empty, and the jug of oil had not run dry. Tears streamed down her face as she realized the magnitude of the miracle. Day after day, she returned to that jar and jug, and every day they provided enough for her, her son, and Elijah. A lesson in trust. The widow of Zarephath had experienced the provision of God in a way she never imagined. Her faith, though small, had been enough to open the door to a miraculous blessing. Through her obedience, she discovered that God's promises are steadfast and that His provision is endless, even in the bleakest of times. God's love and mercy. The story of the widow of Zarephath is more than an account of divine provision. It is a testament to God's love and mercy. He chose a Gentile woman, an outsider to Israel, to be the instrument of His miracle. He cared for her and her son, showing that His compassion knows no boundaries. In our own lives, we often face moments of desperation when all seems lost and resources are scarce. Yet, just as God provided for the widow, He promises to provide for us. His love is unchanging, and His mercies are new every morning. Even in our weakest moments, He calls us to trust Him, to take a step of faith, and to believe in His promises. A word of encouragement. Let the story of the widow of Zarephath remind us that God is always near, watching over us and ready to provide in ways we cannot imagine. Whatever challenges you face today, take them to Him in faith. Trust that the same God who multiplied the widow's flour and oil can meet your needs, sustain you, and bring hope to your heart. This narrative, rich with emotional depth and spiritual insight, is designed to capture attention and convey the profound truths of God's provision and mercy.